down here on level 1. So low he could parachute out of a snake's asshole.
Hey guys, gonna be doing just kind of a recap video here, talking about all the weird shit that's been happening recently with Phil. I think obviously one of the biggest things that's happened recently is his friendship, in quotation marks, inverted commas, parentheses, brackets, with the Kino Casino, Triple P, as Phil calls him, and Andy Worski. I couldn't imagine better friends on this planet. But they have really gassed Phil up, especially their viewers, giving Phil a bunch of money. They've really gassed Phil up to the point where he's become almost a different person. So, that's fucking wild. But there's some other stuff I kind of wanted to go over also, you know. Kind of wanted to go over all the new shit he's been buying too, which is fucking weird. But we'll get into that. So just kind of a brief kind of recap of what's been going on. Started a couple weeks ago. Someone in one of Phil's, I think it was during one of Phil's React streams, someone mentioned the Kino Casino and how they've been reacting to clips of him, detractor clips of him, and if he knew anything about it, and Phil said no. And so then one night, while Phil was laying in bed while his wife was asleep, which, okay, if you believe that, Phil goes onto their kick stream at 2 o'clock in the morning, his time, and starts talking in their chat and saying, "Oh, I'm the real Phil." Fucking stupid. And then he slides into their DMs and begs to come on their show, and for some reason they agreed, and they had an interview, which was just a fucking pre-stream. It was totally pointless. I don't know what anyone thought they were going to get out of that. They obviously had a couple sneak disses in there. There was that segment. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was boring as shit. Because it was just Phil doing a pre-stream in front of two other guys. Wasn't very interesting. But they did have a segment where they were clearly sneak dissing Phil because they had a clip of Ethan Ralph calling his wife a stupid fat horse or something. And Phil got very quiet when that came up for some reason. But I guess the question is, like, what does the Kino Casino think they're going to get out of this? So also in the interview, you could tell from the first couple of seconds that they really regretted this idea at least a little bit. You can especially tell in Andy's reaction when they have this lame joke about, "Oh, Phil, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Get the trolls with this one, Phil." And then Phil dodges the question. And they're like, "Are you fucking serious, Phil?" People have compared what Kino Casino is doing with Phil to something like Carl Pilkington with Ricky Gervais. I also think another example might be Dinner for Schmucks, that movie that came out, God, like 20 years ago or whatever it was. But I think it's a little different, especially the Carl Pilkington one. Carl was kind of in on the joke. He knew they were laughing at him, and he was trying to be funny, but there was a certain honesty and earnestness to Carl. Like, he's funny because he has such a different view of the world, because he's like a uneducated, simple man trying to get through life. And so, I don't know, I haven't watched a lot of Carl's stuff, but I watched a lot of the, or I didn't watch it, I listened to a lot of the XFM stuff. I haven't watched any of the stuff where Carl was like, what was it, An Idiot Abroad, that kind of stuff. I haven't watched that. I mostly just listened to the XFM shows. And so, Carl was in on the joke a little bit, but he obviously didn't have like the intellectual capacity to not be honest in a way. I don't know if that's coming across correctly. But Phil just doesn't get it. I hate to spend the entire time talking about a question about his favorite ice cream flavor, but Phil just didn't get it. Like, they wanted Phil to like do something funny, be weird, be a lolcow. They brought him on to be the jester, and Phil gave him a pre-stream. Decided to be boring and dodge the question and say, "Oh, I can't answer what my favorite ice cream is because you'll have people on both sides, and oh, everyone will be angry at me." You're supposed to perform, Phil. That's why they brought a jester on their show, to perform. And like, Phil just doesn't get it. So I don't know if that's just Phil completely doesn't understand social cues or what. Or maybe he's just that stupid, like he's dumber than Carl Pilkington, like he has less street smarts or something. Like, I don't know, but like, I think it's pretty clear. I don't know if it's pretty clear. I think one interpretation of what Kino Casino is doing is that they're bringing Phil on as like a prop, basically. That like, oh, we'll poke him, he'll say something funny, and that will be it. And the only way they seem to be able to get Phil to agree to that is to pretend to be his friend. But they know that they're lying to his face. It's a very strange interaction, and I wonder if they're getting out of it what they want to get out of it, if that makes sense. Because, like, it seems that they're doing a lot of squeezing and not getting a whole lot of juice, if that metaphor works. Like, if you take the RTU documentary, where they were just clearly sneak dissing Phil the entire time. I think one of the examples was there's a segment in the documentary where RTU asks his fans for money to get a new camera, and Triple P asks Phil, you know, how scummy would it be to, you know, set up a goal to get a camera and then not actually go through with it, which is something Phil did with Pay Me Tons. He set up a like $2,000 goal on Patreon to get a like $200 camera or some dumb shit, and then he never bought the camera because he never reached the goal, because who the fuck's gonna pay $2,000 to get a $100 camera or whatever the fuck it was? But you could tell they were clearly sneak dissing him like the entire time. Like half this stuff, like, again, it's hard to know exactly what Kino's trying to get out of it, because like I said, they're doing a lot of squeezing for not a whole lot of juice. And so were they actually sneak dissing him, or is it just that Phil is a lolcow, RTU is a lolcow, so when they make jokes about RTU the lolcow, half of them also are jokes about Phil? Did they unintentionally sneak diss him? I guess that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. And then you've got this thing where they're trying to set up like some co-op games, and it just keeps falling through the same way Phil's co-op streams with his wife kept falling through. So like they said, like, oh, we're gonna get Mutahar on, and then at about the same time Mutahar's supposed to come on, Mutahar decides he's gonna be dropping out of social media and moving to a different country. That's a weird coincidence. It makes you wonder if Mutahar was ever going to show up. If that was maybe just they were lying to Phil. I don't know. Like, I find it hard to believe that Mutahar was like, yeah, because you don't decide to leave, because leaving social media, like deciding you're going to leave the country you live in, isn't something that happens overnight. So the idea that, like, what was it, Friday night, Mutahar on Twitter sends Phil this DM about, like, oh, I'm sorry I've insulted you, Phil. I didn't realize there were other worse people out there, so that somehow makes you okay. As if, like, not everyone in jail is there for murdering someone. Maybe that's a bad metaphor, but, like, just because there are worse people out there doesn't mean Phil doesn't do bad things. Like, he's a lying scumbag piece of shit. Like, yeah, he is not as bad as Boogie for scamming millions of dollars out of people in a cryptocurrency thing, but he's lied to his fans about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on mobile games. He got $100,000 of credit card debt wiped out by lying for 10 years about his business expenses. That's not slander because Phil admitted to it. If you remember, God, so I'll say it's not slander because Phil admitted to committing tax fraud and bankruptcy fraud. If you remember the Side Scrollers interview, they asked Phil about his $5,000 a month of business expenses. Phil claimed in that interview, although I guess wasn't under oath or anything, so I guess Phil could have lied there. But Phil did claim he's never in his entire career spent $5,000 a month. But if you look at the bankruptcy filing, he claims for his business, his ordinary and necessary business expenses leading up to the bankruptcy roughly totaled about $6,000 a month, with 1 month being about $10,000. So yeah, out of his own mouth, he's admitted to tax fraud. At least as far as I see it, it's possibly lied, but assuming he told the truth. So when Mutahar's like, oh, there's worse people out there, I guess, but like I said, Not everyone in jail killed someone. So I don't know why that justifies, like, apologizing to Phil. One of the things he said was, I saw the videos of you badgering your fans for donations and money. And if that's the worst thing you've done, like, I guess I need to apologize. He did something bad in your eyes, right? Like, that's one of the things you get on Boogie about, is like, the reason him faking cancer was so bad was because he was using it to get sympathy and money. Phil lying about his, like, what's the difference between Boogie lying about his cancer to get sympathy and views and money, and Phil lying about his mobile game addiction to get, I guess he's not lying about his mobile game addiction to, like, get sympathy and views, but, like, he's lying about where the money's going while pretending like he's in horrible financial situation. Right? Like, Boogie says, like, oh, you guys have to support me. I've got $50,000 worth of medical bills due tomorrow night. And Phil says, oh, guys need to support me because I've got 2 big bills due tomorrow. What's the difference, man? Like, oh, Boogie's asking for more money? It's still the same kind of shitty behavior. The shitty, scammy, piece of shit behavior. I don't know. But again, the point was, fucking lost the plot. So the point is, why is Muta sending that on Twitter 2 days before he quits Twitter? Like, something doesn't add up. I doubt Muta in on the joke. I don't know why he would be. I don't know why he would give a shit. It's not like, I mean, he is a drama YouTuber, but why would he fucking care, man, about Phil? Like, I get why Triple P and Andy, I kind of get it, why Triple P and Andy want to have their own little toy or whatever, their own toy lolcow, because that's all they cover is lolcows. Why would Muta give a shit? He goes from, talking about some crypto scam or how some credit card company got hacked and every one of his followers needs to get a new credit card or get a new password for all their bank accounts. He goes from that kind of coverage to, like, oh, guys, here's my interview with Darkside Phil. What? That doesn't make any fucking sense. It never made any sense. So I don't know. I hate to do, like, a commentary video where my opinion is I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but it just isn't adding up. And I think, because I think one of the examples you can look at is at the end of the RTU documentary, where I think it kind of shows what the Kino Casino thinks they're getting out of Phil. Because when you have that monologue Phil does, where he's talking about, oh, RTU's fucked with me for 10 years, and now I'm taking his last poker chip, so he's felted casino, you're felted. You could watch Andy just lose his fucking mind. And I assume he's laughing at Phil, not with him. Although you can look at PPP, and he is just confused as fuck. He has no idea what's going on. Like, why is Phil saying this? Why is Phil pretending he's a WWE character? I think that's what they're trying to get out of him, is because that's pretty much what they seem to be accomplishing. I don't know if it's exactly their plan, but it seems to be what they're accomplishing, is that they're basically trying to get Phil to put on, again, I don't know if this is their goal, but it seems to be what's happening, is Phil is putting on the King of Hate persona again. Again, it's not a persona. The persona is actually the person Phil is today, so technically they're asking him to take off the fake DSP gaming persona and show the real King of Hate. I don't know if that metaphor actually worked, but, like, the DSP gaming is the clown makeup and they're washing it away to show the King of Hate underneath. Maybe something like that, because that's what it seems to be accomplished. Like, we've got all these clips now of Phil, like, oh, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, he did that side scrollers fuck you clip recently. He did the Keemstar clip where he's like, oh, Keemstar apologized to me. Well, I've got a counteroffer for you, motherfucker. Come on my pre-stream. And then he's talking about detractors almost every day now. Like, he actually had a segment recently where he pulled up DOODY stream's video and he started talking about it. You had where he was like, oh, DOODY claims he makes $5,000 a month at least, but that's actually technically my money because if I wasn't there, no one would watch DOODY, which is like a half truth, a quarter truth. It's not that the people watching Doody would watch Phil instead. They'd watch a completely different content. Like no one, even if Doody is just clipping Phil and adding a new title to Phil's content, because the title puts a context around the clip. So Phil, I don't know how to explain this correctly, like just the title enough of a clip is transformative because it puts the entire clip in a different context, right? So if you have a clip where Phil's talking about like, oh, I don't have enough money to fix my house, and Phil titles the podcast like, oh, talking about home renovations, and Doody clips that part out, and he entitles the clip something like, this fucking pig roach has a broken down, fucking ruined shack. That puts the entire clip in a different context, and it is transformative. Just by naming it something different, you can transform a work. If you clip it, if you just play back the whole thing, it's a little complicated, more complicated than that. Doody offers something different from Phil. He offers clips that are meant to show certain things. He offers commentary. No one's gonna, if they aren't watching Doody's commentary about Phil, they aren't watching Phil. Phil has this part where he's like, oh, it's not like Doody came out of nowhere and people enjoyed his personality and now he has millions of views. No, that's literally exactly what it is. Doody wasn't, I assume, I don't know for sure, but I don't think Doody was there in 2008 uploading DSP detractor videos. So it literally is his effort that people are coming to see. Like, they're coming to see his clips. Like, he specifically, people watch Doody streams clips, not Start Hogan, not Atlas the Clip Keeper. Like, people go to a certain clipper for things. And then he's also got commentary videos. So, I don't know, maybe I've really gone off the deep end with that one. But so yeah, he had an entire segment dedicated to Doody and he tried to like mind fuck Doody into demonetizing his channel for some fucking reason. As if Doody would fucking do that. It's like, what? He can make $60,000, $100,000 a year fucking laughing at Phil. Why the fuck not, man? Shit. After watching that Doody video, I'm like, shit, I need to upload more videos. Shit, if there's that kind of money out there making fun of Phil, fuck me, man. But he also tried to expose the secret detractor Discord, which was literally called Secret Detractor Discord, as if it wasn't a joke. Because it had like, what, 40 people were in that Discord? I could pull up a dozen other Discords that are actually active, that have like hundreds or thousands of people in them, and people are posting every day, and they're actually public. Like, there's no actual secret detractor Discord. Like, everyone admits that we have multiple ones. Phil goes on this rant like, oh, you admitted that you're using actually a different Discord, so gotcha. It's like, what? What are you talking about, Phil? Everyone admits that there's one. It's no secret. There's multiple of them. Almost every single detractor channel has their own Discord. It's just a Discord. And he thinks we're actually like out here like doing anything other than laughing at him and being like, oh, look at the stupid fucking clip Phil did. Or when he was setting up that PC and we were in, or at least I was in, I think it was Detractor Beam's Discord, and it was like laughing at Phil spending 2 hours trying to figure out how to fucking reset his router because it wouldn't connect to the internet. And you could clearly tell Phil has no idea how fucking Discord works. He's like, oh, it says there's 13 people online. That means they're actively talking in this channel. No, that's not how Discord works, my man. But yeah, he's basically, it's funny because originally when Phil brought up, DSP Reacts, and he's like, oh, I've got this brand new idea for these 3 different ideas that I'm going to have, and, I'm going to reinvent my channel and that kind of stuff. One of the things people thought would actually have been a good idea, because I remember I think they talked about this on the That Being Said podcast, the morning before Phil officially announced what he was going to do. And several people thought, like, well, what he might do, it might actually be an interesting idea, is Phil react to a bunch of detractor clips. That might be interesting. And he's kind of halfway doing that. And originally when Phil mentioned, because if you can go watch at least the Meerkat restream of the announcement of DSP Reacts, when Phil mentions that one of his ideas is DSP versus the internet, everyone's like, oh, is that going to be the segment where Phil brings up detractor videos and responds to them? Well, now he's doing it. Kind of. He's like half-ass doing it, like everything fucking Phil does. Not even half-ass, he's like quarter-assing it. Because he didn't even play the DOODY video. He showed 2 screenshots from the DOODY video about, it was the DOODY video about how much money can be made on YouTube ad revenue. And Phil's like, oh, you say you just do this for fun. Well, don't make $60,000 a year having fun and own me. I'm not exactly sure how that owns Phil to not make money laughing at him. I don't know. It was like some reverse pignosis, but like you have to be dented in the middle of a WWE wrestling ring in order to fall for that dumb shit. So another kind of point I wanted to get, or at least another point I wanted to talk about, was Phil claims he knows that the Kino boys are razzing him. But then why does he go along with it? Like, Phil's trying to claim this whole thing is like a giant redemption arc and, oh, the tides are turning. But he knows they're doing it dishonestly. Like, at least he claims he knows. I don't actually think he believes it, but he at least claims he knows that they're doing it dishonestly as like a joke or a meme or something. But how is it actually a redemption if no one is honest? Like, if everyone is making a joke about you, and the joke is that you're being redeemed, how are you redeemed? It doesn't make any fucking sense, man. Like, is it just about the money? Is it just Phil made more money, so he's willing to let them clown on him? Is that it? Like, he has this, oh, I've got so many morals, and I'm not gonna take Keemstar's money. I'm not gonna take his blood money to embarrass myself. But now the Kino Casino pays him to become the King of Hate, and he welcomes it. And the Kino Casino has paid him, what, 1/10 of what Keemstar was offering? Is Phil putting on a persona, or are they just letting him become the man he always wanted to be? One of the things Phil mentions about the upcoming Joon The King documentary is about, oh, I put on this persona back in the day in the street fighting days. I was intentionally trying to be this heel in the community. I was intentionally trying to stir up shit and make people mad so that there would be more hype. As if that makes any fucking sense. Like, I was trying to be a shithead in the SRK forums, and that somehow was going to make more people go to Evo. Like, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense, but whatever. But he's trying to like preemptively explain that, like, oh, it's all a persona. It's all a persona. I was pretending back then. So is he pretending now, or is this the real him? That's kind of the thing I want people to think about, is what was the persona? Was DSP Gaming the persona, or is the King of Hate the persona? Which one's the clown mask? Because I kind of think the King of Hate is the real him. Like, he spent, what was it, a decade in the Street Fighter community being the King of Hate, being a shit stirrer. He was the King of Hate for the first, 5 years or more of his YouTube career, until YouTube started cracking down on kind of his humor or jokes or whatever. Then he went to Twitch, where he really had to neuter himself. And now he's back on YouTube, and he's back with guys that fucking couldn't stream on YouTube because of the fucking clown show it is over on YouTube. And now, like, he's having more fun being the King of Hate than he ever did as DSP Gaming. I think is what I'm trying to get at. So I think the King of Hate is the real Phil. And, like, they paid him money to take off the clown makeup, basically. I don't know if the metaphor is working, but, I guess the question is it just about the money? A couple $1,000s can make this guy dance. The guy who's always on about, oh, I've got all these morals. I won't do this, I won't do that. You can't make me do anything. I've got oppositional defiance disorder. Oh, $1,000? Yes, sir, I'll put on the clown makeup. What is happening, man? Why is he doing that? And the only explanation I can come up with is he is the King of Hate. Like, the return of the king is the return of the King of Hate. So if it is a redemption arc, and Phil's current persona that he's now adopted is the King of Hate, does that mean the real him is the King of Hate Otherwise, there'd be nothing to return to. I don't know, I hope that segment made some sense. But another segment I kind of wanted to go over was this new equipment arc, which is really baffling in a way. Assuming you believe Phil, and a lot of this stuff was donated, which I don't think anyone believes is actually donated. I'm suspicious. So just a couple of, I'm going to name a couple of the things and roughly how much it cost for them. So there was the new PC he's got, which is basically just for playing Street Fighter 6. A fucking brilliant waste of money. He's not even streaming from the new PC. But that was about $2,500, including tax and delivery and all that. He's got a new webcam with this, AI 4K, which he doesn't actually use any of those features, and that was a couple $100. He got new LED lights that do the exact same thing the old one did, but these ones are brand name and cost more money, and they hook up to an app on his phone. He got that Victrix Super Alpha Omega fight stick, or whatever it's called. That was about $400. He got a new phone, which he showed once accidentally. Detractors pointed it out, and now feels very, very careful about showing his phone on stream. And that's probably $1,000 there. He got new foam for some fucking reason, which that segment about the foam was fucking wild. Phil was talking for weeks about, there's this guy behind the scenes, he's talking to me about maybe we'll get some new foam here, and I'll have a more professional setup. And the day the foam arrives, Phil's like, yeah, this foam I bought, it's pretty fucking cool, isn't it, guys? And then he talks about I'll just spend some more money to get some different colors. It's like, wait a minute. Wasn't this donated? What do you mean you'll spend more money to get new colors? What? So, that was off. So, that should make you question all of these claims about all this stuff that was donated. Because even the fucking fight stick was supposed to be donated, right? What? The several weeks he spent supposedly talking to someone behind the scenes about the foam, I think might be illuminating here. I wonder if Phil puts these ideas out there I'm talking to this guy behind the scenes. He doesn't know if he's actually going to buy it, but we're thinking about buying this, and yada yada yada. If he's trying to bait another whale into doing, or bait a whale into doing it by pretending some other whale isn't going to come through. He's trying to pignosis, I don't know, Jax Raxer or something into donating him a fight stick, and then it just doesn't work. Because that seems to be that's kind of what I'm seeing with the foam thing, is that he spent maybe even a month talking about, I'm talking to this guy behind the scenes, and we're looking at, these panels that you can swap out. He somehow already knew exactly what this guy was going to buy him, and it happened to be the exact same thing he later admits to buying. But whatever, that's just a weird coincidence. But he's talking about, there's this guy behind the scenes, we don't know if we're going to get this, we don't know if we're going to get that. And I think he's hoping that someone actually is hoping that one of his pay pigs might actually contact him behind the scenes, one of his real pay pigs, and say, Phil, if the other guy isn't coming through, I'll step up for the king. I'll defend your honor, sir, and buy you that totally pointless foam because there's so much clutter in his office that there's no echo, and he already has foam, and he already has a fucking noise gate on his microphone, so that actually doesn't actually do anything. It's a complete waste of money. But then Phil did it. And so I wonder if that's the same thing, because he did the same thing with the fight stick, right? He was like, I was talking behind the scenes. No. With the fight stick, he randomly one night checked his spam folder, and someone had sent him an email saying, I'm going to buy you a $400 fight stick. Right, like that. And it was the day before Phil had bought all of these replacement parts for his current fight sticks. He had the Quanba Q600 or whatever the fuck it's called. And Phil was convinced that somehow he had broken the joystick, or no, somehow the joystick just broke. I guess all of his pig grease fucked up the electronics or something, but he wanted to replace the actual control stick in his old Quanba. And of course he couldn't fucking do that because the fucking idiots at Quanba didn't design their fight stick in such a way that any component from any supplier could be replaced. Whatever, that was fucking brain dead dumb. I think if you compare that and then just a couple days later he suddenly has a $400 new fight stick, which is the Cadillac of fight sticks, or the Pontiac of fight sticks. I forget what he called it. I think if you compare that situation to the capture card situation, I think something interesting, there's a poetry, it rhymes, if you will. When Phil's capture card was having issues, he ended up ordering like 3 different ones. And then when the really fancy one showed up, he supposedly returned the other ones. Although I know for a fact don't know for a fact, but I bet those are in his closet or in Kat's office or somewhere. He never returned those fucking things. But I think it's the same fucking thing here happening with the fight stick, right? Phil orders a couple like simple parts to replace, a button and a control stick or whatever, and that'll come the next day. So then a couple days later, the Pontiac of fight sticks shows up, and then he just uses that. So it's the same kind of, poetry, it rhymes. It's the same kind of situation where he ordered a bunch of stuff. Some of the cheap stuff shows up first, and then the really expensive thing shows up later, and he just uses the really expensive thing. Like, it's the same thing that happened with the capture card happened with the fight stick. Something tells me he bought the fight stick. And a couple of the things, like this foam and the LEDs that he's recently bought, all of that came off the back of his huge RTU reactor he made like $4,000. How the fuck has he already spent the money, man? He had LEDs behind him that worked. It looks exactly the same. Was the money literally burning a hole in his pocket? Is that why he had to buy the new LEDs and the foam? Like, he replaced his old sound foam with a more expensive version. He replaced his LEDs with a more expensive version. And he admitted to buying the foam, so I assume he bought the LEDs too. I'm pretty sure he admitted to buying the LEDs. And if you've seen my other video, like, he's spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars buying useless shit. And then he bought the that pixel art thing. The pixel display screen. The DVOOM pixel art 4000 or whatever it's called. That was another couple $100. Like, he's buying all this tat. Worthless tat. That doesn't, like, you can't even see the DVOOM thing is like a 60, I think they say on their website it's like a maybe 128 pixels by 128 pixels. But then when Phil shrinks down his webcam to put it in the corner of the screen, it becomes like 10 pixels by 10 pixels. And so it's like this blurry piece of shit. You can't even tell what it is when he's playing a game. Like, what? Totally pointless. Total waste of money. Several $100 right there. Like, if you add up the LEDs, the foam, the DVOOM thing, all of the tips he got from the RTU React, gone. Like, how can this guy spend? It's one of those things, like, how is he this bad with money? Like, people who win the lottery, like, they all have terrible money habits. That's why most of them end up broke within like a year after winning $300 million. They just don't know how to manage money. But this guy spends money as fast as he makes it. The amount of money he spends is exactly equal to how much he makes. Which is why, oh God, a little bit of a tangent, but Phil is like recently re-retconned his bank leak story. He's back to claiming that they stole, thousands and thousands of dollars from him. How is that possible? Phil doesn't have thousands of dollars saved at any one time. Like, the guy, when he posted the bank leaks, his first post was like, hey guys, I just got into Phil's bank account. He's got $43. And then everyone's like, bullshit, show your proof. And then he showed, 18 months of Phil's expenditures. And surprisingly enough, during those 18 months, Phil's outgoings exactly equaled his incoming. This guy, he can't save a penny. It's amazing. And also the PC, it's going to be funny because there's all this recent hoopla about Intel CPUs and all that kind of nonsense. And they might have stability problems. They might have bad microcode, might be manufacturing defects, who knows. But Phil has one of those CPUs. And there's a recent, basically mandatory BIOS update to change the microcode of the CPUs in order to prevent voltage spikes that could potentially degrade the CPU, leading to instability and crashes and that kind of stuff. 0% Phil updates his BIOS. I doubt he could figure it out. He's too stupid. He might even fucking brick the thing updating the BIOS. He's so fucking stupid. Yeah, that would be a fucking nightmare. You fucking LARPers almost ruined his PC by having him uninstall like all of his PCI slots from his fucking motherboard. I can't. Oh god, if he does a fucking BIOS update live on stream. Oh boy, he's gonna be returning that thing. But yeah, but I think another important thing to, Phil's like, oh guys, because I think this is something that comes from the Kino Casino, is Phil's kind of changed his tune to, I never play mobile games, so it's not true that I spent, $6 zillion on WWE Champions. He's now saying, so what if I do spend money on it? I mean, not that I'm saying that I spend money on these games, but, I'm just kind of bargaining here. So what if I did? I mean, it's my money, right? I can do whatever I want. If I wanted to spend $100,000 buying a 6-star Hulk Hogan, I'm allowed to do that, right? It's like, well, why are you asking that in the form of a question if you're not guilty? Very strange to call up the police and say, like, I'm just hypothetically here, if I did shoot someone and I hid the body and you never find it, is it actually a crime? It's like, what? Why are you asking that? Also, another one of the lines he's, I think, clearly been fed by Triple P or Andy is this thing about, like, because he's trying to counter how people are saying, oh, Phil's not getting this shit donated to him, he's just buying it himself. Phil says, well, what if I did buy it for myself? That would be fine, right? I'm spending things for my business. It's like, well, no, the issue is people are pointing out you're lying for no fucking reason. Like, if Phil just said, oh, I went out and bought a PC for my stream, I don't think anyone would say there's too much of an issue. I don't know if I'll find the exact clip, so maybe you'll just have to believe me on this one. But there was a point where I think right after Phil announced he was going to be getting a new PC, Phil was talking to his fans, and he's like, well, I'm just kind of worried that if you guys found out, I was doing well, you would stop supporting. It's like, well, I think that's why people point out that they think you're lying about having all this shit donated, because even Phil knows if he just comes out and says, oh yeah, I just bought this $400 fight stick, like, it really hurts his business, because, it's something Tevin's pointed out many times, is that Phil's business is being helpless. Like, his entire business depends on, or no, how does Tevin say it? Tevin says that Phil's business is being poor. Phil has to be poor in the eyes of his pay pigs or they stop donating. And so even Phil knows that. Like, he brought up, like, if you guys, saw I was able to buy all this cool stuff, you might stop donating. Well, what other streamer on the entire fucking internet would do that? Would say that? Would think that? Would have fans that actually do that? So, again, another question people have is, like, how is Phil able to actually afford all this stuff if he is buying it and it's not donated? Because there is a slight possibility, like, we've seen the pay pigs for Phil are weird as hell, and it's possible these things are getting donated. But I think a couple possibilities here about how Phil's able to afford it. One, Amazon monthly payments. We know that exists. We know Phil is a fucking sucker for credit. Even though technically it's not credit on Amazon monthly payments. And I don't know if all of this stuff is... We know at least the PC was eligible for monthly payments. So I think it's 100%, 99.9% that Phil put the new PC on a payment plan. But I think it's also possible Phil has a new credit card. It's been quite a few years since Phil got the bankruptcy. And if you remember, I doubt any of you remember this, but during one of the TBS call streams where they they listen to messages and stuff, I pointed out that I think it was starting the end of last year, the use of the word credit has gone up hugely in Pig Go. And so I speculated maybe Phil has got a new credit card. This was a couple months ago. So I wonder if Phil's back on the fucking dragon and he's got a new credit card. And another thing, even the phone, even though the phone's pretty expensive, it's like $1,000 phone. If you get it through the service provider, it's only like $30 a month or something for 72 months, something silly like that. So that's not a huge amount. And a lot of this stuff, like the LEDs, the DeVoom, the foam, all of that was after he made a bunch of tip money on the RTU stream and the RTU documentary React stream. And I think another thing is, if you look at TJGamebox on Twitter, who's been following Phil, recently Phil hasn't been in the top 100 for a couple events. So it's possible he's cut back a little bit on the WWE spending, which, to be frank, he doesn't have to cut back that much to afford all this stuff. I mean, that's just, Phil's making that much money, and he's spending that much money on WWE Champions, that if he didn't, based on what we've seen from the bank leaks and TJGamebox following Phil on WWE Champions, if he stopped playing the game for 2 weeks, he could afford all this stuff. I mean, that's just how much money this guy's making, and how much he's fucking blowing on DoorDash and fucking WWE. I assume he's buying all of this stuff. A lot of it he's admitted to buying, but, you know, the fight stick, the webcam, the PC, he claims were donated. I doubt it. Yeah, so I don't know. There's a lot of weird shit going on. I don't know why everyone's taking this opportunity to kind of apologize to Phil. I don't know if everyone's in the joke. Like, why did Muta randomly decide to apologize to Phil? But it was like a backhanded apology that, like, yeah, you haven't killed people, so I guess I'm all right with you. Like, what the fuck kind of apology is that? And then you've got this Keemstar apology thing where Keem's like, yeah, you're a lying scumbag piece of shit, and all this newfound attention, I assume you're going to waste all of it. But I'm sorry for saying I don't think you can be redeemed. Last night on that stream I did. Are they in on it? What? Like, I don't know. Something's not... Why is it all coming together now? I don't think Triple P and Andy have the pull to be like, hey, Muta, can you pretend to apologize to Phil so we can keep playing with our new toy? Why would he agree to that? Why would they care? Like, if anything, Phil barely knows anything about Mutahar. Like, if you were gonna do this behind the scenes, I assume you'd get Moist Critical, the guy who ruined Phil's career, turned it around at least. I don't know if ruined is the right word, but when he reacted to that Scorn clip and said, yeah, Phil's a piece of shit, and then that led into the side scrollers, and that led into DSP reacts, and then led into all this fucking nonsense. So if you were gonna do something behind the scenes, I assume that's the guy you'd go for. Oh, and we also have to talk about the upcoming DSP documentary, which is, I think Phil said, gonna come out at the end of August. So we'll see what that looks like, but Phil is already preemptively trying to downplay it, and he's already coming up with excuses as to why he can't watch it with Kino Casino. Kino Casino came on his show to watch the RTU documentary. That was perfectly fine. And Phil just happened to make several $1,000s. But when it comes to time to watch his documentary, Phil comes up with all these excuses. Oh, I'm not going to watch half of it because half of it's going to be about recent things, and I don't want to actually address any of the recent allegations of the last 5 years. But he's already saying, like, oh yeah, everything that happened in the Street Fighter days, oh, that was all a persona, and I was pretending to be someone I'm not, even though I'm being that person nowadays. So is he back on the persona? I've already talked about that. But he's come up with, he's like, oh yeah, it's going to take like 8 hours to react to my documentary. So how could I ask the Kino guys to take 8 hours off of their time, multiple, because he's not going to do it all in one sitting. He's going to do it in like 4 night streams or something, even though he's not reacting to half of it. So how's it going to take 8 hours? He didn't think that lie through. But then, so because it's going to take him multiple nights to do it, he's not going to do it on he's not going to ask the Kino guys to come on his stream and not make money for multiple nights in a row. Although the obvious answer is they do 1 night on Phil's stream, 1 night on the Kino stream, 1 night on Phil's stream, 1 night on the Kino stream. I mean, that's the obvious answer. But, you know, never let common sense get in the way of Phil's lies. So, you know, it makes sense if you don't think about it. But yeah, it's fucking wild, man. Like, part of the reason I've had trouble making some videos lately is like, it's like, oh man, okay, tomorrow I'll sit down and do make a video about the weird thing that happened today. And then, you know, the next morning Phil's like, all right, time to watch a DOODY stream. It's like, oh Christ. I guess that's no longer pertinent. Yeah, but I finally made a video. This is just kind of me talking. I didn't really use a script for this one. Hopefully it comes together in the editing and I don't sound too out of it, but I think I don't know, I just wanted to get my recent thoughts about the stuff out. So, catch you guys on the next one.